there was that much of an exchange. Like I said, even in coming here to the Raiders, my job isn't just the team to me. It extends beyond that, and it extends to our fans, and it extends to the people that support us and fill our stadium up and make it hard to play in because we're filling every seat and all that.
Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
And welcome, everybody, to the glorious episode of the Put On Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and half of us are podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. Today was nice. It was like 81, so it was beautiful today. And then the other part is in the old, the old state of Luka Doncic, if you will, out there in Texas. How you doing today, Ryan? What's going on today, brother?
Doing good. I'm actually in the Sooner State today. I'm in Oklahoma.
You and Jim Nagy. You see that Jim Nagy's the GM now of the Oklahoma Sooners? All these college teams are getting big time GMs now, so we'll see how that goes. So let's go. POR SBR is my Twitter handle. Ryan Holmes is RHOLM22, and then check me out on PORSBR.bsky.social on Blue Sky. Put on waivers _podcast on Instagram, and I think that's it. So let's just dive in. The combine is a really cool. It's like this is our who knows how many combines we've kind of looked at now, but this is a time where you kind of get those scouts, get the GM in there, head coach in there, and see if they get on the same page, and see if they can grab some quality players. What were your thoughts about what Johnny Spytek and Johnny Spytek and Pete Carroll said? I think yesterday.
Yeah, I wrote down a couple of things from Spytek I listened to today, and it's specifically on the Raiders pending free agents. He said there's a loose plan in place, so it didn't sound like they have a concrete way they want to go. It's going to depend on which guys they can bring back, might restrict them on what other ones they can. And he specifically said, do we have a spot for them? Which I thought was interesting. He mentioned there's a bunch of holes in this team. They won 4 games. They have a bunch of defensive starters up. And then he specifically mentioned we have to have a spot to bring these guys back. The Raiders don't have a lot of depth right now. So I don't know where he was going with that comment. And he said we have 2.5 weeks to figure it out. So it doesn't sound like the Raiders have a clear direction they want to go in right now. I think there's a lot of eggs up in the air, or balls up in the air, if you want to say it. Specifically, probably around the quarterback position, as we're hearing a ton of reports today about Matthew Stafford. But I thought it was interesting the way he talked about what their plan was with their own free agents. It didn't seem like there was a concrete one in place. They asked him about veteran quarterbacks. He mentioned specifically any avenue that we will explore, find as many guys as we can, and load up that room. Sounds great in theory, but if you're going out on the market and trying to find a free agent quarterback, they're not cheap. So you're not going to be able to load up on that many. If you go out and trade for one, unless it's a guy you're giving up very little capital for, it's going to be tough. So I find that to mean that they may trade for one, they may sign one, they may draft one, but they're not going to go just load up and bring in 3 or 4 different quarterbacks. We heard the name Zach Wilson today from Vinny. I hope they don't go that route. I know people can talk themselves into it. He was a second pick. I didn't like him coming out of BYU. He hasn't proven anything in the NFL. You can argue he went to the 49ers. I'm sorry, he went to Denver with Sean Payton for a year, and you're hoping you kind of get that resurrection. He was out of New York, but I'm not giving Zach Wilson any type of money to come over. He wants to come over for a 1-year league minimum and battle it out, sure, but I'm not giving him any money, any guarantees, or anything like that. He talked about the running back draft class and specifically what he's looking for. He said great instincts, great vision, and hard to get on the ground. So a lot of what he said in his opening press conference. He did say he'd love to go find a Chris Johnson, a guy that can run a 4.2. Those guys aren't readily available. They don't really exist. And then he talked about quarterbacks. And he specifically said not to get caught up in how far they throw the ball. His direct quote was how they think it, how they process it, how they lead it, which leads you into the Shador Sanders conversation because he doesn't throw the ball as far as some of the other quarterbacks. But if you want to talk about processing and how they think, then you creep more into that Shador Sanders area. So that's kind of some of my notes on what Spytech said. I didn't take a ton of from what Pete Carroll said. It was a bunch of, hey, let's talk about your time in Seattle while you're out of the league. He did specifically mention Johnny when asked multiple times when talking about Spytech. Um, he talked kind of about a philosophy change being away from the game. And what I took from that was be aggressive on fourth down. Understand down and distance. Understand when you have an opportunity to keep drives alive. Because if you look back at his time in Seattle,
Mhm.
he's a defensive-minded guy that punted the ball a ton and ran the ball. And in 2025, he can't be that way. This offense under Chip Kelly has to take chances and try to score points and try to if it's 4th and 2 and you're in plus territory, go for it. 4th and 1 at midfield, go for it, and not just play the field position game. So. It's kind of just my takeaways from
Yeah.
listening to the two press conferences.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Pete goes, I mean, somebody did ask him a question about like, did you learn something that you feel like you can't go forward with, or something to that
He
effect? And
said yes, but didn't
they
elaborate.
they elaborate. So like, I mean, so we'll see. We'll see what that particular thing is. We'll see if that how that
Yeah.
goes. But I mean, you're gonna get coach speak. You're gonna get GM speak. They really can't say a whole lot. Spicek definitely didn't want to comment on Stafford. That's been like the quote unquote buzz, if you will. I will label um that buzz when I hear Tom Pelissero talk about it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna get okey doke with the Ben Johnson. The Raiders are out after so and so again. That's definitely never happened to me again. So I'll definitely wait to see what happens as far as that goes. But I mean, listen, like we like the setup. They have to execute now. I mean, they have to execute. And I think one thing that I think we got to be careful of is, do you want to keep attaching Brady's name to another big time acquisition like a Stafford, and then if they don't get Stafford, then he's 0 for 2. Then what's the Brady effect if they can't you know what I mean, if he can't close Ben Johnson, he couldn't close Stafford.
Yeah, it's interesting where these leaks are coming from. Because you would think they're not coming from the Raiders side. This might be coming from I could say this could be coming from Stafford's agent, but Stafford's agent is also Chip Kelly's agent. It's the same guy. So like,
Yeah, that's interesting.
um, why would the leak come from there if the Raiders are behind the scenes trying to get something done here? But um, I'm not against the Matt Stafford thing. I think if you want to compete right away and you want to bring in a veteran quarterback, it's going to cost a lot of money. But with void years, you can do a 5-year contract with 3 dummy years on the back end, and the cap hits won't be an issue. This year, you're going to have is 2 years from now or 3 years from now when he's not playing, and that money accelerates, and you're going to have what happened is happening with Aaron Rodgers in New York. You're going to have what's happening that happened when Tom Brady left Tampa Bay. Is all that money is going to accelerate, and you're going to have to eat it for a year or two when Stafford's done. So. Are the Raiders in a position now to go all in for 2 or 3 years, knowing that after that, the 2 years after that, they're going to be in a cap mess because they're going to have to account for all this money? I don't know if they're there yet, but I'd love to have competent quarterback play. I'm not going to say it's a bad move,
Yeah, you lying
depending
about
on what the
that.
cost is. Like, what is it going to cost realistically, draft capital wise? I'm not parting with the sixth pick in the draft to
Would
get.
you part with the first round pick from next year?
I would make it a conditional pick. I would make it a second round pick with the condition being if the Raiders make the playoffs
It's a
and
one.
Matt Stafford starts 12 games or 15 games, whatever the number is,
Yeah.
then it could accelerate into a first round pick. But I would attach it to where it would have to be conditional upon the team making the playoffs and the pick would have to be somewhere in the 20s. Then I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Um, I would not just blindly say, here's a 2026 one. And we have to think about where Matthew Stafford is in his career. And I heard this on the radio, so I went and double checked it and I wrote the numbers down. We all want to think back to the 2021 season where Matt Stafford threw for 4,886 yards with 41 touchdowns and played 17 games. He's regressed every year since then. We really want to look into what Matt Stafford did last year. He completed 65% of his passes for 3,762 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He's still a great quarterback. He still
Yeah.
can throw the ball down the field. He's still a leader. He took that team within a play or two of beating the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. But this isn't the Matthew Stafford from 2021 when he was 33. We're talking about a 37-year-old Matt Stafford who missed most of 2022. He played 9 games, but he's played full seasons the last 2 years and went his completion percentage went down in 23. The yards went down in 23. The touchdowns were 24. And then in 26, the completion percentage went up, the yards went down again, the TDs went down again. So like he's clearly not the player he was 3 or 4 years ago, but he still could be a top 10, 11, 12 quarterback in the league. And the Raiders need that if they want to compete right now. I've always been draft your quarterback, build this team property for the long haul. Let's do this over 10, 12 years and not try to catch lightning in a bottle. But when you hired a 73-year-old Pete Carroll, you have to try to catch lightning in bottles. So I understand why they're doing it. Um, which brings me to the next question. And I know a lot of people say trade for Stafford, draft the quarterback of the future in the third or fourth round and groom him. And I asked a simple question. Name the last time that's actually worked, where a team had a veteran quarterback, drafted the guy in the third or fourth round. He sat for 2 or 3 years, and then he
Hmm.
became a top 10 or 12 quarterback in the league. You can say Jalen Hurts. That's the obvious first name that comes to mind
Hmm.
because Jalen Hurts was drafted in the second round. Carson Wentz was in place, just signed a contract extension, and he's turned out to be a good player, and he was a Super Bowl MVP. You can say Dak Prescott, but technically Tony Romo got hurt. Dak Prescott never sat. So like find me the examples where the guy sat for 2 years and became a top 10 or 12 quarterback that wasn't a first round pick. We're not talking Patrick Mahomes sitting for a year. We're not talking Aaron Rodgers. We're not talking Jordan Love. That situation doesn't really happen either. So the Raiders are still going to be looking for a quarterback 2 or 3 years from now if they do make a move for Matt Stafford and they still draft a guy because chances are it's not going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, it's listen, the whole thing. I mean, they could have. What they really should have did was, just take charge of the whole situation at the end of the season and just started Carter Bradley, and it ended up with the first or second
You
pick
were
in the
pushing
draft.
that Carter Bradley
Yeah,
bandwagon
yeah. I mean,
pretty good over the last six months.
because it's the way the Giants did it with Tommy DeVito. Like everybody knew when Tommy DeVito started starting games what the Giants were up to. So it is what it is. So I don't. I like the Stafford move if they can get it done. It
I
does
guess
accept.
Kirk Cousins comes to mind too. Just sorry to cut you off. Like fourth
Yeah,
round pick behind a rookie, but he didn't sit behind a veteran. Like
yeah,
find me the guy that sat behind the veteran.
yeah. Do you want? Do you? I mean, do you want to go less cost and try to see if Cousins has anything left? I mean, stuff like that. I mean,
I
it's
would
just
rather have Stafford. He's a
yeah.
better, much better.
I mean, I'd rather have Stafford too. So like, let's just. I mean, like if they can get it done. But I do think it's kind of one of those things where like they have to be careful of to keep attaching Brady's name to these things. And if he doesn't close it, then what's the point of like I'm not saying what's the point of having him as an owner, but like what's the point of bringing up his name every 5 seconds when it's time to close the deal as far as like hey close out Johnson. Turns out Johnson wanted I guess they were actually pissed off that the Raiders even
He was
requested.
never in the mix, according to his agent.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so it is what it is, but we'll see.
The issue you run into now is every time his name is brought up, the whole NFL everyone around the NFL just wants to talk about tampering. And like the Raiders
Yeah,
need to get away from that. They don't need to lose draft picks. They
yeah.
need to potentially put them in a situation they shouldn't be in.
I
We
mean, the
don't
Jordan.
know. All we know is it took place over the weekend. We don't technically know when the Rams officially gave Stafford permission.
Yeah,
We know when publicly it was let out, but that doesn't mean that's when it happened behind the scenes. So hopefully that happened last week, Wednesday or Thursday, and the meeting took place on Saturday or Sunday.
yeah. I mean, so what's up with this Jordan Schultz, Ian Rappaport thing? Is Rap Sheet really going to get a rap sheet here? Like, what's going on as far
Apparently,
as
Jordan Schultz is the one that confronted him and used some foul language to him, and there's a beef there. And um, Rappaport's the one that actually called NFL security, according to reports, because there was a threat of physical violence. So there's definitely something brewing between those two guys. I had no idea that Jordan Schultz was the son of Howard Schultz, who owns Starbucks, and it just happened to be that the confrontation took place at a Starbucks inside a JW Marriott hotel.
I didn't realize that either. That's good. Well, oh, you text me Howard Schultz, and now it actually clicks that it's actually the Howard
Starbucks.
Schultz, the Starbucks dude. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. Let's see. You can't have reporter crime out here, man. You can't have reporters beat each other's asses out here. You know, what I'm saying getting a Tupac and Biggie thing going on with NFL reporters. Let's see here. As far as some of these players in the drafts here, I think one question um Rose wanted to know how dominant do we think Mason Graham is? Do we feel like everybody knows he's a good player, but do we think he's a dominant defensive tackle?
As a two down player, I would say yes, that he projects to be a dominant. Doesn't mean he's going to be. But he has all the traits you're looking for. He plays the run. He's explosive. He can use his hands. He can anchor, and he does have pass rush moves. Now, is he a consistent guy who's going to win as a rookie a lot inside and get you 10 sacks? Probably not. You're probably looking at like 5 or 6, 7 sacks as a rookie, and you're hoping to build him into a 10 plus sack guy on the inside as long as you pair him with the proper guys on the outside so they can't be double teamed. But um, if you line him up next to Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, they're going to have to double team somebody, and those other guys are going to be one on one. So, in the right situation, he can be a 10 sack guy on the inside. I do think he's one of the top 5 players in this draft if you're just ranking a board of 5 guys.
Yeah. I like him. I mean, if they truly try to go up and get Shador and truly really try to go up and get Cam and they can't get him, and then Mason Graham is there, then you just take Mason Graham. I think you can't go wrong with going out and getting quality offensive lineman. Who is your number one? Mike wants to know who was our number one receiver in this draft. I mean, I like Tet. I like Tet a lot, really. I've been on Tet for a minute, so I'm not gonna. I didn't see anything from the other. Where in a running back situation, I've seen enough from Hampton and Johnson, where I can say they challenge Genty. Genty should still be number one, but they challenge Genty a little bit more. I don't see a second guy who comes up behind. I think the second best receiver might be the kid from Ohio State.
I think it depends on how you classify Travis Hunter. If you think he's a wide receiver, if you think he's cornerback, they're different players. So if you're
Mhm.
looking for the explosive athlete, the smaller, shiftier guy that can get the ball in space, make people miss and take it to the house, play in the slot, go outside, then you probably would lean on Travis Hunter if you thought he was a wide receiver. If you're looking for the big physical X guy that's going to go one-on-one, win the jump balls, be a red zone threat, not quite as explosive after the catch, but you're looking for a size dominant guy that you can just line up as the X and leave him out there, then it's Ted. So I think it just depends on what you're looking for and how you value those players.
Yeah. Some of the topics for the show, real quick. Let's just talk about the cost for Stafford. Like, what would that actually look like? A trade for Matthew Stafford would look like for that. I mean, we kind of went over a little bit how you would approach it. I don't know if the six is out of the question. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, six is out of the question. So, like, well, as far as the parameters of that trade, what do you think that would entail here?
We also have to factor in that the team that's trading for him is going to have to hand over at least a 2 year, $100 million contract.
Yes, 100%.
So it's the cost of bringing the player in. There's not a lot, and this isn't going to be 5 or 6 teams battling out. It's probably the Raiders or the Giants at this point, and that's even if he leaves LA. Now let's be specific. We're not sure he's even leaving LA.
Yeah,
They cannot come to the Rams can just sit back and say, hey, we don't like the trade compensation. He's under contract and force his hand if they're not getting what they want. We keep hearing them say they want a first round pick. That usually means they're not getting that offer if it's publicly out there. So they may be getting a second, but the Raiders have a high second. I'm not sure
yeah,
I'd part with a second in this year's draft either. If they want a true one, I would do a 2026 2 with those conditions we talked about earlier becoming a one, and then I would give them a 3 this year. So
yeah,
they're going to want to pick in this draft. So I would give him a 3 and then a conditional 2 next year that they could be a 1 if the Raiders make the playoffs and Matt Stafford plays 10 or 12 games, whatever the number you want it to be.
Yeah, because yeah,
I would not part with 6, and I would not part with 35 or whatever the Raiders' second pick is. It's in the high 30s.
the 37, I think.
Because it's two teams here. And the
Yeah,
Giants can always just walk away and say, hey, one of these two quarterbacks is probably
I'm
going to
probably
be
gonna be
good.
there. Exactly,
We don't
exactly.
have to give up a pick either. I'm not really into the pick swap either. I don't want to fall to 26 for a
Yeah,
37-year quarterback. I have to give 100 or 150 million dollars to.
yep, yeah,
So
100%. I know. I totally agree with you on that. I think that makes sense. You know, that trade with conditions, I think it work. I think it would work because you have to pay him, and I think because he wants that guaranteed money. He doesn't. The money's the same thing with Max Crosby. Max Crosby wants his guaranteed money's finished. He wants guaranteed money before he takes the field. I did see that John Lynch. I thought it was hilarious. I mean, maybe it's just posturing by John Lynch, but John Lynch said that the 49ers, there's no guarantee that they extend Purdy. And I was just like, if I'm Purdy, I'm like, okay, let me know. Let me know when y'all can so that contract is ready because I'm not
he's
taking
not
the
going to show
field
up to training camp
because
if you
I'm not
don't.
showing up to nobody. I'm not gonna be in Santa Clara in no time soon until that deal is done. As far as that goes. Veteran quarterback options here. So there's a bunch of them, and you know, some of them are here's the thing. All these veteran quarterback options are gonna have warts. They're gonna get no matter who they get, people are gonna be like, oh, I don't have to half the people are gonna say F it, I don't want that guy. So let's just go through some of them real quick here. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is if I would think that Sam Darnold might be a guy who goes to the Rams if the Raiders trade for Stafford or Stafford really wants to leave. Um, we talked about the Raiders getting Sam Darnold. I am not. I feel like if they get Darnold, they're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round. So, just in my opinion, but like we'll see how that goes. But what are your thoughts about Sam Darnold becoming a Raider?
If you ask me if I had two choices, if I could trade the package I just talked about, a 3 this year and a 2 next year for Stafford and pay him 50 million
Yes.
versus going on the open market and signing Darnold for 4 years, 140 million, I would
Mhm.
much rather get Stafford. Now I know
Yeah.
Darnold's younger. Stafford's a better player. He's a better
Yes.
player
Way
now.
better. Way better.
If I'm the Rams, do I really want to say no to paying Matt Stafford 50 million and have to pay 40 million for Darnold on the market? Probably not. I don't think any of these veteran quarterbacks automatically make the Raiders a playoff team because you have to remember, while they do have cap room, you're handing over, even if you get creative with the cap and pay him 50 million, the cap it's still probably going to be 25, 30, 35 million. A 30-year cap space, a fourth or a 30-year cap space doesn't go to him. You still have to re-sign defensive players and you still have to build this roster around a 37-year-old quarterback. So it's not like it's not like any of these quarterbacks, like I said, can go out and make the Raiders an instant playoff team. So if it's those two, I would choose him. I don't think, the idea of Darnold going to the Rams sounds good, but I don't know why they would do that either.
Yeah.
Um, I think
Yeah.
there's still a chance he stays in Minnesota. Like, I still think
I think so
there's a
too.
realistic chance he stays in Minnesota and Stafford stays in LA.
Yeah. It's you can talk about guys being quote unquote available or talk. The talk is great for like the talking heads every day on the Stephen A. Smith shows and stuff like that. But in reality, like, you know, are the Rams really not gonna gonna try to win next
The
year?
Rams were one play away from being in the NFC Championship game.
But
And
with
Sean
all,
McVay is not
yeah,
unless they have something behind the scenes done. Like if someone's coming and he really wants Aaron Rodgers or he really wants Sam Darnold and they can make it happen, I get it. But why would the Rams risk that when they already have a quarterback in place? Just pay
yeah,
him the extra money and keep him around for 2 years. Now, if you're Matt Stafford and you're
yeah,
37, do you really want to go to Vegas? Do you want to go play for the Giants? Or
yes,
for
they,
5 or $10 million less, do you just say, okay, if you can get me to 40 million, I'll stay in LA?
I think it's almost like there's a little bit of here of calling his bluff here.
Yeah.
Because they're sitting there saying like, I mean, this dude's not gonna want to leave Los Angeles. Like, I mean, they're banking on the fact that The team is going to be good. The Raiders are up in the air whether or not they can be good or not. The Giants are up in the air or whether or not they be good or not. There's not like another team out there. Was he gonna go to the Browns? Like, you know what I'm saying?
The
Like, I
Browns
mean,
don't have the ability to go get him
they
because of
can't
their
get
cap situation.
because they got Watson. There's not
Does he
like,
want to go to Tennessee? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe. I have no idea. I just don't see. I think they're gonna cause. But I think at the end of the day, I know Raider fans love to do the Photoshop jerseys and everything like that. But I think at the end of the day, I think he just stays. I can't. I don't see him going. I don't see him really. I don't see him going anywhere. I think they'll find a way. It's not like they have a broke owner. That owner could buy three teams. I think he owns three teams actually. so yeah, so
He's
yeah,
got
so
Walmart money.
yeah, well, he got Walmart money, so so he'll be fine. They got the money in the mattress, so they'll be fine. Kirk Cousins, thoughts about Kirk Cousins? I thought he obviously it could have been the injury, it could have been a lot of different things, but he just didn't look himself. Not even for Kirk Cousins. Last year, ended up losing the job at the end of the season to Michael Penix, and the next thing he's the backup right there. So he obviously is a guy who knows how to collect huge contracts. I mean, he's probably earned more money than any other quarterback in history of the NFL. Thoughts about what could be next for Kirk Cousins? I know they said he's the backup right now, but you have to think that he would, if he has a chance to play somewhere, he'd want to make that move.
The issue with Kirk Cousins becomes he severely restricts your offense. He doesn't have the arm strength anymore, but the bigger issue is you have to change your entire run game because you can't run outside zone or stretch plays with him, and you can't run play action with him either. So like, does Chip Kelly really want to like basically boil his offense down and take out outside zone? Does he want to take out wide zone? Does he want to take out play action pass to bring in Kirk Cousins, who's just not a good player anymore? I know it'd be
Yeah,
the league minimum. This is the Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh because he has offset language in his contract. He's going to get paid by the Falcons even if he plays for another team. So the Raiders could essentially get him for league minimum, but to me, he's just not good enough right now, and I'm not gonna handicap what my offense could potentially be because of the limitations that he would bring. I would just go another route.
yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. Aaron Rodgers, are you signing up for our McAfee every day and all the stuff like that? Could he be a guy who comes in and plays with the Raiders here?
I think
You're,
that
you're thinking about it. You're
The
thinking about
Aaron
it.
Rodgers situation is going to probably be one of the last dominoes to fall. All these other quarterbacks are going to get in place, unless Aaron Rodgers just goes to the Rams and Matt Stafford does get moved. If Stafford
Yeah,
goes to the Giants or the Raiders and Aaron Rodgers goes, but I don't know why Sean McVay would want 1 year of Aaron Rodgers. I don't think the culture that Pete Carroll and John Spytek want to build fits what Aaron Rodgers is going to be, who's not going to be there for OTAs, who's going to go on these darkness retreats and want to bring in his own guys and his own receivers and just kind of take control of things. That's not what Pete Carroll and John Spytek want to build in Vegas.
yeah,
If we get in, if this thing gets into like late March, early April, and the Raiders haven't really found their quarterback and the musical chairs is starting to dry up and there's not a guy left and Aaron Rodgers is the one guy sitting there and he's willing to come for cheap because I'm not paying Aaron Rodgers. I'm not giving him $40 million to come in for 1 year based on what type of player he is now. And the distractions that you're probably bringing in with the media circus around him as well. So I'd say it's like a 5% chance that Aaron Rodgers ends up in the silver and black.
yeah. Well,
I'm not
okay.
saying no, but I'm not saying that it's going to mesh with what this team is trying to do.
Yeah. Um, Daniel Jones.
I would say Daniel Jones, as much as we don't like him, if you want to talk
He
about like a guy that could
kind
fit
of
the
fits.
system
He
that
kind
Chip
of
Kelly
fits. He
wants, he's
fits.
young,
He fits.
get him out of New York. There are weapons.
Yeah.
Again, this would be like a 1 year, $5 million flyer. This is to the quote that John Spytek says, find as many guys as we can and load up the room. That would be one. If he
No.
can't find a starting job anywhere else and he's going to sign for a low number, but again, if you're him, why wouldn't you just if Sam Darnold leaves, why wouldn't you just go back to Minnesota? You're going to get even if it's the same deal, 5 million, 10 million for 1 year, whatever it is. Whatever they gave Darnold last year, they give to Daniel Jones if he leaves. Because you have essentially a rookie in JJ McCarthy who didn't play last year due to injury, is your only competition to a starting job with an offense that's loaded, with a great play caller and an offensive coach. So if they bring Darnold back and he gets to the market and he can't find if he can't find a spot, then I would add him to the room because he can run. He's got some arm strength. They
Yeah.
took him to
Yeah.
the playoffs. But I would no way say, okay, we signed this guy and he's the starter week one. Like he's just part of the room.
Yeah. I agree with that one. And then Mr. Unlimited. I think he's run out of limits here. I would not sign Russell Wilson. I think that I mean I much as people will get crazy about Jones, I think he would. I think he's the guy who actually does fit the bill as far as like he couldn't come in and Daniel Jones could not come in and say, hey, give me a huge deal, and then you can still draft the quarterback. You know what I mean? To play behind him, and then then you'll see if we'll see who wins in training camp, and then if Daniel Jones wins, he just plays, and then he plays all that 1 year. I think that's the guy who actually kind of fits what they want to do, and it's going to be Red Nation will have a hissy fit, but like I said, none of these no veteran bridge quarterback is going to be a guy who's going to be like, hey, I want that guy.
And now you know why teams are willing to pay Matt Stafford and give up capital for him, even though he's 37.
Yes.
If I'm the Raiders, and let's just say Daniel Jones gets brought into the room, and I know there's going to be people in the comments that are like, "Oh my God, they're talking about Daniel Jones now." Like I'm just saying, part of the room. I'm doing everything I can to go get Cam Ward.
Yeah.
If I'm bringing him in, I'm doing everything I can to bring in Shador Sanders and pair him or a Jackson Dart. Like I am getting a top level, whatever you think about those guys, and I'm
Yeah.
pairing them with Daniel Jones. This isn't Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, Aiden O'Connell, and let's roll the balls out of the training camp in Napa. That's going to be a disaster if that's what they decide to do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're not rolling next year with Daniel Jones and Carter Bradley. My guy Carter Bradley. No way that's gonna happen. Thoughts about the combine now? The combine is gonna start up here. The coaches are already getting interviews and everything like that. The Raiders have talked to the quarterbacks, I guess, through a couple guys on Twitter who said that. What are your thoughts about obviously they know they got it. They know they have to improve that room. So I mean, how the cost of going to one? I mean, they have to be willing to go to one and then drop down to six. You know what I mean? So that's big. They probably lose Abdul Carter if they had their idea. I think the Titans might just stay there and make that pick. I think maybe the Browns might just want to get Travis Hunter. So the Raiders dealing might have to come from
The Browns are
um
taking a quarterback.
oh
They
yeah,
don't
I mean,
have one, and they have no avenue to go get one other than that number two pick.
yeah, I mean, so then they're going to be so the Raiders are going to be stuck with another they're going to be stuck with trying to maybe second round or our dreaded second round with Jackson Dart then they're gonna have I
If he
mean that
gets to the second round, the
yeah
talk is now he might be a late
yeah
one.
well, yeah so they're gonna be a tough spot, yeah, that's why they never kind of the Raiders never kind of crash out just enough to be in that position. But yeah, I agree. I don't. People are making these mocks and saying that Travis Hunter's going second, all this stuff like that. Like I don't know. I can't see how the Browns don't take a quarterback. I just don't. I mean, last year was the Patriots. Everybody was saying, "Oh, the Patriots not taking the quarterback. Patriots not taking the quarterback." I'm like, "How are the Patriots not taking a quarterback?" And they end up taking Drake May. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you about that.
Deshaun Watson's out for the year. He's not going to play.
Yes,
So
he's
even
not.
if they get Kirk Cousins on a league minimum deal, they still need to take a quarterback because Kirk Cousins might not even make it through the season, probably won't. And Deshaun Watson, probably will never take a snap as a Cleveland Brown again, and they're on the hook for 2 more years with 70 something million dollars a year for the next 2 years in cap hits. So like, where else are they going to get a quarterback? Like they're taking
Yeah,
a quarterback.
yeah, taking a quarterback,
Um,
and the Giants taking a quarterback. So there they
Now,
go.
if you're the Giants and you're not sold on Sanders, then you take Travis Hunter. Um, this is where the
Mhm.
whole, spy tech talking and this is what the combine is for the Raiders. Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, John Spytek need to sit down and talk to these quarterbacks. And again, he said in his quote, and I have it written right down here, how they think it, how they process it, how they lead it. Figure out which one of these guys meets that. They're not really interested in the guy that's going to go out there and throw the ball 70 yards in the air and run a 4.5. That's not what this
Yeah,
group is looking for to run this offense. Who can run Chip Kelly's offense? But at the same time, they still need to be, you're in the AFC. So whoever this is, no matter what their leadership is, no matter how they process information, they can be a good quarterback. You still have to figure out how to beat Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Like you need a guy. They
yeah.
don't have to quite be those guys. They have to be good enough to stand across the field and beat those guys if you don't get the best defensive game, if you have a turnover here or there. And I still think there's a chance. Now, I'm not crazy. There's a shot in the dark that Shador Sanders, we already know he's not testing because we know why. He doesn't have a great arm.
Yeah,
He's not a great athlete. His strength is what John Spytek was talking about here.
processing.
And then you start thinking about Joe Burrow. And I know that I mentioned this in a show a long time ago. Like there's a chance, it might be 2%, that Shador Sanders might be some version of Joe Burrow. Like Joe Burrow moves enough. Joe Burrow has enough arm, but Joe Burrow is not elite in any of these other categories. He's a processor, he's a thinker, and he's athletic enough and he has good enough arm strength to be a really good quarterback. Maybe there's a shot. Shador Sanders probably isn't Joe Burrow, but there is a small chance he might be. I would still prefer Cam Ward,
Me too.
but if
He's
he
gone.
gets to 6 and the Raiders don't have to move capital, there's a good chance that Shador Sanders is going to be wearing the silver and black.
Yeah, I mean, the most. I think that's going to be. That's the hope is that he's the guy who drops. And he's the guy who drops. So I don't know if.
He
I
might be
mean,
Geno Smith, and
I
he's
mean,
probably going to be Geno Smith, but he might be some lesser version of Joe Burrow.
yeah, it could be. He could be that as well. So we'll see. We'll see. We did talk about our. Oh yeah, we mentioned Sanders not throwing it at the combine. I mean, that's kind of like part. I mean, like he's just. I mean, even the guys with big arms last year didn't throw at the combine. So I don't think Caleb did, and Jaden Daniels didn't throw last year, right, at the combine.
I don't think he did. And then
Yeah, yeah,
Genty's not going to run. I saw Tyler Warren's not going to work out again. We've talked about Tyler Warren. Like, I don't think he's going to run well, so why run? Um, the other tight end from Michigan, Loveland's not going to work out. Arroyo from Miami's not going to work out. So this is growing each year. We're getting more and more players that just aren't doing the testing and they'll just stand on their pro
mm,
day. I do find it interesting because the one question I have about Genty is that long speed. Is he a 4.5 guy or is he a 4.35, 4.4? Is he a 4.5 guy?
yeah.
4.55 guy? And then his agent comes out and said, "Oh, he's going to run a 4.35 to 4.4. We're training." And then literally 2 days later, he's not going to work out. So like if he could really run a 4.35, he would be out there running to put up that 4.35 and cement himself as a top 5, 6, 7, 8 pick in this draft.
I'm debating on whether or not doing a live show for the drafts. I'm saying it right now. That is the one pick that would drive me up the wall. You might see me like go viral on this because I just cannot. I do not. Then them drafting Genty would drive me absolutely crazy. Like there is, they can't. I just do not. I
I mean, I'm
go
not going to
ahead.
say no to Genty, but I would need them to trade for Matt Stafford. I would need them to sign Trey Smith. I would need them to go sign a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I would need them to go sign another defensive tackle. They need to bring Malcolm Koonce back. I need them to go sign a starting corner. And if you can fill all of these holes and spend a gazillion dollars in free agency, then I'll have that conversation. But if they can't, if they still have multiple holes all over this team, it's hard for me to, and I love Genty. I have my top five guys in the draft. I have him four.
Yeah,
But it's the opportunity cost of taking a running back at six. Those running backs typically have short shelves lives.
yeah.
He gets one contract, maybe a short second one. Maybe you pair him because you can't trade for Matt Stafford and not have a run game, but this draft has so many running backs.
And
Big
that's my
two more.
point. Yeah, my
Or
point
trade
is,
down. If you're going to take him, don't
yeah,
do it at six. Move down to 10, 11, take him there.
get some
Recoup
more
some of the
picks.
draft capital that you gave up to go get Stafford.
Yeah,
But
and
if
then
this is Daniel Jones and Zach Wilson, you can't take Ashton Genty at six.
you cannot. And like to me, like there's so many running backs. Just they need you need two running backs in this draft anyway. So just go. I mean, I'd rather just go I'd rather just get a bigger need and then get the two running backs later on. Um, as far as that goes, but I think we covered all the quarterback options, the veteran quarterback. There's no
Just
guy.
Fields, I would say. I would throw Fields
Oh,
in there.
To
My
be
one
fair, to be
question with
fair.
Fields is like Chip Kelly's offense, a lot of it is timing, short to intermediate. You need a guy that's pretty accurate that can because they're not going to throw the ball down the field a ton. So like I don't know if Fields is accurate enough in the short intermediate in the quick game to do that. I know that he can run and get outside and run some of these quarterback design plays they did with Will Howard, but
Hmm.
the accuracy on those short to intermediate passes when it's 3rd and 5 or 2nd and 7 and you need to pick up 4 or 5 yards and stay out of 3rd and long, don't know if that's good enough for Chip Kelly's offense.
Yeah, 100%. So, top five, overall, our top five big boards. Who do you have in your top five?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty chalk here, but like I think
Yeah.
Abdul Carter is the best player in the draft. Like,
Hmm.
I words I wrote down: versatile, explosive. You can play him on the ball, you can play him off the ball. He's fast, he's instinctive. He could be Micah Parsons. Like you could line him up at off the ball linebacker on first and second down, and then you can have him put his hand in the ground on third down and passing situations. So he's just an explosive athlete who can create havoc off the edge. It would be hard not to put him at number one in this draft without a clear-cut quarterback.
Yeah. Who's number two? You go right through five. You
Yeah, I
go
have
right to five.
Travis Hunter. And we talked about this earlier. It depends on who drafts him and where they value him. Some teams think he's a corner, some think he's a wide receiver. If you think he's wide receiver one and you have two good corners, you draft him and play him at wide receiver. If you're Cleveland and you have Newsome and Denzel Ward out there, then let him play receiver. If you're a team that needs a corner, I personally would play him at corner, and then I would have offensive packages for him, where you can bring him in and get him the ball in space and have design stuff for him and play him 15, 20 snaps a game at offense. Um, there's ball skills, elite ball skills. He's quick, he's fast. You can move him around and just he's instinctive. Is kind of an off the ball defender, and he's got great hands. Like I
Yeah.
said, like this guy's gonna intercept balls if they're in his area. Number three, I have Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. We talked about him earlier. He's a three down guy. He can play the run. He can anchor. He's got pass rush moves. He's quick. Um, it's going to take time to get him to develop more consistency in his pass rush, but I do think he's got a chance to be a 10 sack guy in the interior and be a pretty dominant run defender. Number four, Genty. I do think that when I watch Aston Genty, Emmitt Smith comes to mind. Like that low, built to the ground, like
Hmm.
physical guy who's hard to bring down, that can just take the pounding over and over and over again. Um, if the long speed is there, and this is Emmitt Smith that doesn't run a 4.6, so this is Emmitt Smith that runs a 4.35 or 4.4, then I would have that conversation at six if the Raiders could fill all those other needs that we talked about earlier. He's tough. He has excellent contact balance, and he's just really hard to tackle, which is some of the words that John Spytek used earlier. And then five, I have Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward would line up number five here. We broke down Cam Ward. I watched 2 games of his. We broke him down, I think, back in October or November. If
Hmm.
you guys want to go back and watch that, but he's accurate. He can throw from multiple angles. It's a solid to plus arm as far as arm strength. He can extend plays. Again, he's not an elite scrambler. He's not going to get on the edge and be Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields, but he can move the chains enough with his legs. Um, The ball security was better this year. The decision making was better this year, but those are still things that I would have concerns. He does hold the ball a little bit long. He'll bail out of the pocket. There are instances where like he should just tuck the ball away and go down, and he'll kind of wave it out there like a loaf of bread where you can knock it out of his hands, or he'll make a throw and you're like, what are you doing? But he's a playmaker. He's the type of quarterback that can be a gunslinger. And when your team is down, you're never out of the game with
Hmm.
Cam. So like he has that ability to just bring you back and keep you in games that you look for in some of these quarterbacks. If you ask me if there's one quarterback in this draft that I think has a chance to compete with the 4 or 5 better quarterbacks in the AFC 3 or 4 years from now, it would be Cam Ward. I don't think he's a slam dunk to go number one, and I don't think he's the best player in this draft, but I do think he's the best quarterback.
Ooh, ooh. For me, I'm gonna roll with. I do, like I said, I like you. Abdul Carter is my guy there. I think. I mean, he's just. I felt like he played hurt. And almost helped Penn State go all the way for a championship. Just the hands. He can do so many variety of ways to get to the quarterback. He also has the ability to drop in coverage if you want to do that too as well, occasionally. But yeah, he's going to make his bones going after the quarterback and being a disruptive force. So I like him a lot. Um, I think I it was we go back and forth a little bit in my head, but I like Mason Graham. I feel like he is just going to be one of the most consistent players in this draft. Like him a lot. Out of Michigan. Just seeing the way he did to so many quality offensive linemen in the Big Ten. Travis Hunter comes in at third. I don't know what I'm gonna. I think number one, he has to play corner on my team. It doesn't matter what, no matter what team it is, he has to play corner. He's special there, and I think if he ever got to New England with him and Gonzalez, I bet that'd actually be a really great dynamic duo there. And then you mix in some pass plays to kind of satisfy that part of it too as well, because I know that kid's gonna really want to play corner. I mean, play corner and wide receiver. That's gonna be part of his like mantra, part of his whole thing, part of his whole deal. Will Johnson. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what he's gonna run, but I do love the way he gets after the football. He can really attack the football. Especially if you're playing zone coverage, where he can drop back and look at the quarterback's eyes, has that ability to pick balls off. So I really like him. And then I'm gonna roll with this last one. I'm gonna go with Will Campbell. Because the consistency can play a bunch of different spots on the line. I don't love. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's even if he's even a tackle, but he can't play tackle at the next level. I think he will, but I think there's times where he could move in and move inside and play guard for a team, but he doesn't have that versatility. You saw a lot of that versatility from so a lot of the Eagles offensive linemen have that kind of versatility. I think that versatility is going to be a big thing for Campbell there. I don't know if it was Matt Hold or somebody else did a cut up of him just picking up stunts over and over and over again. It was very fluid in it, like just a really smart offensive lineman. So I like him a lot.
It'd be perfect in New England because they need to protect
Oh yeah,
Drake May.
there's a couple of teams who should really be at quarterback. I mean, like should be on linemen should be the Bears and Patriots. I mean, for real. But we'll see if they actually pull the trigger and do
I think
any
with
of
Campbell, some
that.
teams will have him as a guard just due to arm length, and it does sound.
Yeah,
If you listen to John Spytek, it does sound like he has minimum requirements for certain positions.
yeah,
So the Raiders may view him as a guard. He's similar to Rashawn Slater when he came out of Northwestern when the Chargers took him, just because of the arm length. Some teams will have him inside. Rashard Slater's been a very good left tackle in the NFL, and Will Campbell probably will too. But we'll see that arm length when you start facing the Max Crosbys and the TJ Watts and the Miles Garrett's and these guys that can come off the edge, the Micah Parsons, like it does become a factor. You have to be a great technician to play left tackle with 32 and a half, 33-inch arms.
yeah. If you were going to Vegas, and I will we'll leave the show on this one. If you were going to Vegas tomorrow, who's the quarterback of the Raiders? Oh yeah. Before I say that, your feelings about the Paloma signing with the Raiders. You kind of thought it was a little bit generous.
Yeah, I just looked at it. It was 2 years, like $8.5 million. The Raiders could have, he was a restricted free agent. So like the Raiders could have done 1 year. I think it was like 3.2 to 3.5. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it was somewhere in the mid threes. But that would have given him the opportunity to have another team give him a contract the Raiders could have matched. So they could have said, okay, let's see what his value is on the market. They
Yeah.
could have signed him to a 1 year, $5 million deal, and got a second round pick if another team went out and signed him. So there is cost certainty here. The Raiders clearly paid him to be a starter. So he's going to come back and start in the secondary, knows the defense. And it does give him certainty to know what he's going to cost in 2026. So it's good to keep him around as a young player. He's earned it. The Raiders didn't have to give him what they did, but they chose to because they didn't want other teams to come in. I probably would have done the 1 year, $5 million. Let's see what he does over a full season. If another team wants to give him a big deal, I'll take the second round pick for a guy that was an undrafted free agent. I do like Polamalu. I do like the fact that he's back, but I probably would have gone that second round tender route,
Yeah, makes sense.
especially when
Yeah,
you're trying to get a quarterback. If you can get a second round pick for a safety, I would probably have done that, assuming you could bring Merrick back.
yeah. I mean, Merrick will be huge as well.
And chances are no
Merrick.
team was giving up a second round pick to sign Polamalu either.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Every dollar on the cap counts. Every dollar. So that's actually a good point about how the Raiders could have worked with Palomar. Um, somebody's giving you $1 million. They say, hey, you got all these options for who's the option for who's going to be the quarterback for the Raiders as far as the one of the veteran guys they pick up. Who would be the guy you think?
Who do I want or who do I think is the betting favorite?
The betting favorite. The betting favorite. The betting favorite.
I think
One would probably be.
when the dust settles,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be Sam Darnold because I think Matt Stafford stays. I think
Yeah.
Darnold gets the market. And then other than Darnold, who were the other choices? Like I think the Raiders would, if they have the cap money, like I'm not for it. Like if they can structure it for like to get out of it after 2 years, if this thing goes south with
Yeah.
Darnold, then great. Like I don't want a ton of cap money year 3, year 4.
Mhm.
But I do think at the end of the day, push come to shove, it probably ends up being Darnold.
Yeah. I think so too. I think the Raiders go a little bit more money than what Minnesota wants to pay, and then Minnesota just rolls with JJ, or Daniel Jones if JJ is not ready. But yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be. It's the inevitable, and for me, I don't see them. If that happens, then it doesn't matter if Shador is available at 6. I don't think they go Shador. I don't think they draft Shador if they get a young quarterback like Sam Darnold.
I
I
would.
would. I
I still
would.
would.
I would too. I mean, I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'm with you 100% on you. I
I'm not
would.
sold on
Yeah.
Darnold.
Me
And I
either.
and I've already said earlier in this show that if the compensation's right, I'd rather pay Stafford for 2 years than Darnold for 3.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, but there has to be a way to get out of it, though. There's no way. He has shown enough to warrant interest, but also shown enough to be like, hey, we know you ain't the guy. So like, I mean, so like, I would just like there has to be that middle ground where and who you're competing with, with Sam Darnold. It's either going to be the Raiders and the Vikings and I
I think the
mean,
Giants potentially, but we'll
Giants,
see.
but well, Giants. I mean, go back to New York. That should be interesting to see if you can go back to. Imagine going back to New York and take him to the playoffs. Jets fans will probably love that one.
Aaron Rodgers apparently came out today and said he wants to play for the Giants. He must know that there's not a lot of teams interested in him.
I think he is. I think he's worn it out. I think he knows it's. I think he knows the door is shutting. The
I
door is
think the
shutting.
sneaky team no one's talking about in this quarterback derby is Indianapolis. Like Chris Ballard is on the hot seat.
Yeah,
Shane Steichen's on the hot seat. Like they can't roll into next year with Anthony Richardson. So like no one's talking about the Colts, but I think the Colts land one of these quarterbacks too.
yeah. We'll see. This would be their last chance. After this year, that'd be it. They'd probably be gone. No question about it. If they don't win out there, Ballard and everybody else. All right, Brad Nation. Ryan, I know it's a late night for you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
You guys take care, and we'll talk about the combine next week. Peace.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep.